tonight, I couldn't be, tears are in my eye. I couldn't be any more blessed than I possibly am right now. And please don't call her Colonel. She is retired from the U.S. Air Force, but she is the first woman to command a fighter squadron for the U.S. Air Force. None other than Martha McSally, and she's running for U.S. Congress out of Arizona's Congressional District 2 against Ron, the big man, Barber. Yeah, you're probably looking up his history right about here to figure out what exactly has Ron Barber accomplished. And I can't figure that out, and I don't know how he obtained 111,000 votes from individuals from Arizona. So when we come back from commercial, we'll be talking with the great Martha McSally, and trust me, she is so humble. I tell you, I'll be carrying a big on my shoulders, but very humble woman. We'll be right back right after this. You're listening to the Exceptional Conservative Show on AC Nation, Radio Network, a network that's big enough for a rotund big man like me. Tonight we have with us Ms. Martha McSally, who is running out of the 2nd Congressional District of Arizona against the great and magnanimous legislator, Ron Barber. Good evening, Ms. McSally. It's an honor to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Listen, first and foremost, just to let everyone know, can you express to individuals first and foremost what it's like, firstly, to be in a fighter jet, and then secondly, to hold the command over a whole squadron of fighters?
Well, I flew the A-10 Warthog, which is the best single-seat close air support airplane in the world. I mean, it's like none other. And its entire job is to show up when Americans are on the ground, their lives are at stake, and you provide that close air support to them so they get a chance to live to fight another day and get home to their families. And I picked that airplane over any of the other fighters. And you are the pilot, the co-pilot, the navigator, the bombardier, and the gunner, you know, all by yourself in that airplane. And it was described to me once by a colleague that it's often like doing long division in the middle of a wrestling match. You know, so the intensity of the missions, because we take off from Afghanistan, and you just didn't know where you were going to be called. And so we had maps for the whole country, and we would be given a grid coordinate and a frequency, and we talked to an American on the ground, often in very chaotic circumstances, under fire, on the run, sorting out very quickly where's the good guys, where's the bad guys, where's the civilians, and deliver firepower with great accuracy, with friendlies often very close. So it's very rewarding, and it's very challenging. And there's nothing like commanding a squadron like that. I mean, I was responsible for 27 aircraft, you know, valued over $10 million each, ready to deploy anywhere in the world in 24 hours notice. So we had to be ready for a Korea scenario, an Afghanistan scenario, you name it, some other crisis popping up, high altitude, low altitude. I had to make sure that my men and women were trained and ready to go. It was such an honor to take command of that squadron and to have such a successful command tour also in combat.
Indeed. Listen, so multitasking must be truly boring for you. There have been so many politicians on the left who have described individuals in the military, and one of them is Kerry, Senator Kerry, who advised that individuals have to be well within the limits of below average intelligence to carry out the functions of the military. I ask you, first and foremost, would the military trust some $27 million of aerial equipment in the hands of an individual who had less than, say, 100 on the IQ examination?
Yeah, you know, he is just flat out wrong, and this isn't about me. It's about the men and women right now that are serving in uniform, which are just the greatest fabric of our society. I mean, these people are stepping up to serve. They're putting their lives on the line, and they have to be able to be, in the one, moment, they got to be able to go out there and take out the enemy. They got to be able to discern and have wisdom in circumstances that are very chaotic where bullets are flying. They got to be able to bring peace to situations or humanitarian assistance. It's the strategic corporal is what it's been called. And these guys got to be competent, capable, high aptitude, lots of courage, intellect. I mean, they are the best and brightest, and it was my privilege to serve with them. So he's just wrong.
Now, forgive me, because I could talk with you all day. It's just a great fascination that I have in terms of the Air Force and your service, because your service was not necessarily the easiest. You set waves, and you were not afraid to do so. You challenged the Pentagon regarding certain issues in Saudi Arabia. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long story, but we had a military policy, not just Air Force, that was making our service women wear Muslim garb whenever they went off base in Saudi Arabia. And I mean, it's just flat out wrong. It's unconstitutional, bad for good order and discipline and the mission. And I tried for 6 years to get this policy change, which was just a military policy. And then they ordered me over there myself. Then they threatened to court-martial me if I didn't put it on. And, you know, again, very long story, but I filed litigation on the matter, took on the Pentagon, McSally versus Rumsfeld. But, you know, and that's what I was taught. Since the day I went to the Air Force Academy, that being an officer and lifting your right hand and taking an oath to the Constitution means you got to show moral courage and leadership regardless of the cost. And that's what we're missing right now in Washington, D.C., by the way.
You're absolutely right. And that's what I wanted to, and thank you. You know how I like to ask questions, because it leads to the next subject about the moral aptitude of those who are in office. We have individuals who are racing around the country right now, running for election, stating that they're going to represent their constituents at the best of their capacity. And we just had our AA rating drop to AA minus. We have a $16 trillion deficit, and in certain urban areas of the country, you have unemployment rates as high as maybe 50% among teenagers and 20% for adults. I'm asking you, what type of moral courage is necessary in order to make the next steps to change in this economy?
Well, you know, Congress has just failed. They keep kicking the can, and they keep creating uncertainty. And we don't need more uncertainty. Businesses are holding on to their assets. They're not hiring new people because they don't know. What's the tax structure going to look like? Are taxes going up? Is the Affordable Care Act going to be imposed on us? What other new regulations are coming? And Congress keeps kicking the can. I mean, they haven't passed a budget in 3 years. They passed 0 of the 12 required appropriations bills. They just passed a continuing resolution to fund the government for 6 months. And then they head out, you know, to worry about their next election instead of worrying about the next generation. We have so much at stake right now, and this is why I'm stepping up to serve. We have got to get down to solving these complex problems because America's at stake. So we need people in Washington, D.C. that are willing to fight for turning this thing around and getting our economy going again and getting us back on the right track and not just watch, you know, looking for political gain, but actually the next generation and the future of America. And that's what I'm going to bring.
Indeed. Now, Ron Barber made
Madam Speaker, I rise today as the member who most recently faced an electorate. And I have heard loud and clear that the people of Southern Arizona elected me for the very same reason the people of every other district elect their representative, to stand up for them. I wasn't here to vote on the Affordable Health Care Act when it passed, but I appreciate its benefits and that we must work to improve it. I rise today to speak against its repeal. We should be here having a robust discussion about how to make this law better. We should be acting to ensure that Medicare doesn't pay more for prescription drugs than the VA, and to keep rising insurance costs from hurting small businesses. We should be looking for ways to create jobs, to strengthen our middle class, to bolster our economy. We should rise above partisan bickering, move on, and get something done. This repeal bill sends a message to American families that this body cares more about political grandstanding than improving their lives. Let's put aside this charade and do the work for which we were elected. I yield back. Madam Speaker, I rise today as the member who most recently...
Forgive me, let me just ask in that regard. Did Southern Arizona send him to Washington, D.C. to support Obamacare?
Well, there was a clear message that was sent previously that the people of this district were not for a government-run healthcare program. They are for bringing the cost of healthcare down so it's affordable and available for people, and having healthcare decisions stay between patients, families, and their doctors. And Mr. Barber is a staffer who was elected to be a caretaker of Gabby Gifford's term. He's a lifelong bureaucrat and staffer and follower. And he's gone to D.C. in just a short period of time. I mean, despite what he just said on the floor, he's become a politician, and he's participating in the divisiveness and the rhetoric. And, you know, I don't know if you heard what he said last week to me at an editorial board, that the GOP is a bunch of white guys with big money, while I was sitting right there.
I was going to ask you that.
You know? So I mean, he's using all the talking points, you know, of his party bosses, and he's voting down the party line, and he's become one of them. So in just a short period of time, he's just jumped into that mold. And that's not what the people of Southern Arizona are looking for. They're looking for a leader and a pioneer like them who's going to go there and get things done and fight for things, not just cross the aisle, but to define where the aisle is and actually move us forward. So it's time for us to press forward with a new leader.
Now, you had a very tough race. You were running as a Kelly in Arizona for the right to take over Barber. Now, have you received the support of Kelly for the rest of this elective period?
Well, I ran in the special election primary against Jesse,
Yep.
And I had a 68-day campaign from a cold start with no political experience, and it was pretty amazing. And we came in a strong second to him overall and won the voting on Election Day. He then, when he lost to Mr. Barber, he stepped out of the way, which I really appreciate him doing, to give me an opportunity to be the nominee. So, yeah, that was very gracious of him, and I really appreciate that.
Excellent. Now, what are some of the three basic things that Arizonians are telling you that they want you to handle when you come to Washington, D.C., the three major issues?
Well, the first one is the same for everyone in the country right now. It's economic security. It's, you know, people being able to find good jobs. It's seniors being able to make sure that they're going to be able to, you know, have a good retirement that takes care of themselves. It's young people not going off to college, getting into a lot of debt, and then moving back into their parents and not getting a job. You know, it's this economic insecurity is the number one thing on everybody's mind, although there's been lots of distractions in the political rhetoric. So they want me to get there, roll up my sleeves, and get to solving these challenges so we can get the trajectory going, get our debt trajectory going in the right direction, stabilize the tax structure, stabilize the regulatory structure so that businesses can start hiring again. They also are looking for real health care reform. Premiums keep going up. People are very concerned, but they don't want a government-run program. And another very big issue specific to us is securing our border. The illegal activity from cartels coming across the border is impacting this district like no other in the country, and the federal government has just failed to have the political will to secure this border, and so I need to take that on and lead that effort.
Now, before we go to a quick break, and we're going to come back and spend the rest of the time with you regarding some of the issues of this particular day, especially Israel. Got to ask you, are you receiving the support from the conservative movement, from the GOP, from the governor's office, so that you can handily whip Ron Barber this go-round?
Well, I was named as a young gun by the National Republican Congressional Committee, which is kind of funny. The top gun is now a young gun. But, you know, there's only 39 of us named in the country, and they use that as they scrutinize candidates and campaigns to see who's a serious candidate that has a path to victory, that's professionally organized and has shown they can raise money. So I made that threshold. I'm now a young gun, so the NRCC realizes this race is in play. I mean, we had a poll that we did in August, and I hadn't been on television since April 17th, and I was already within 5 points of Barber, which was close to the margin of error. So the momentum is all ours, and the National Party realizes that, and we're, you know, moving forward to win this seat.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Cook's political report had you all measurably further behind than that 5, and so it's very good to see that the Republican Party has addressed certain support concerns. Listen, everyone, 646-564-9777. You're going to be speaking with the next Congresswoman from Arizona Congressional District 2, Martha McSally, a war hero and as well a woman with a great mind. When we come back, we're going to talk with Ms. McSally about Israel and the performance of the U.S. at the United Nations. You're listening to AC Nation Radio Network 2, the station that's big enough for a big man like me. Tonight we're talking with Martha McSally, who is running in Arizona Congressional District 2, who is not fearful of contact sports. As she is a war hero and is taking on politics right now against the retreads of the Democrat Party, who happens to be Ron Barber. Listen, producers around the country in the farm industry are basically, they're suffering. The weather has not necessarily been the greatest of weather, and as well with the amount of energy requests for corn and other food substances or whatever, we're beginning to see the energy costs are going up, and costs for transportation of food going up, and thus grocery prices going up. What is the best method for dealing with this particular situation? Should we send more subsidies to the farmers or find another avenue to do so?
Yeah, thanks. I want to go back to the last segment real quick. You said that the poll you mentioned had me much further behind. That's because that was a Barber campaign poll that had been publicized. So.
and you know that Washington, D.C. is dependent on liberal intelligentsia. So actually you're probably about running about 70 to 30 at this particular juncture with Ron Barber. So congratulations to you. I'm quite certain that
yeah, right. No, we're definitely, the momentum is definitely all ours. Hey, you know, the situation with the drought and the farmers, that's just one example of how people are suffering around the United States, and Congress has just adjourned and not dealt with it at all. And so this is just an abject failure of them to be addressing these issues that are impacting not just farmers but consumers, as prices are going to go up, and they're not bringing any stability into the situation. So, you know, I've not gotten hot and heavy into the debate with subsidies versus insurance and what kind of farmers that helps and doesn't help, but I'm certainly willing to sit down and try and tackle this and many problems with thoughtful answers by bringing leadership to the situation.
Exactly. It's not, well, you knew what happened last week when they went on the steps of the Capitol and they said, we're going to stay here long and hard and work through the night to make certain that we pass a budget that meets the needs of so many people, and then went back inside and adjourned. So we don't have a very good Congress right here. Listen, Congress did leave, and right now everyone's focusing on the election at this particular juncture. Part of that is a distraction because I don't know, and you can tell me because you have a greater source of foreign policy than I ever will have. Egypt being discarded as an ally, and today, this morning, at the UN, Israel got up and walked out of the speech by the Ahmadinejad, and the U.S. didn't get up. You know, it was kind of like that situation where you get together with the group and you tell everybody, if the teacher says, let's do homework, then we're all going to stand up and walk out, and you get up and you leave and turn around and there's no one behind you. What signal did we send America and the rest of the world today?
Well, that is just symbolic of the signal that we've been sending, unfortunately, for the last few years, which is that we're not standing next to our friends, and our enemies are no longer afraid of us. So we're in a situation where we were going to talk to Iran, and look how well that's helped us. I mean, Iran is the most sophisticated state sponsor of terror in the world. I mean, as a military officer at the senior level, I mean, I can tell you, you know, we've studied this. We're very aware that as a state sponsor of terror that they are varsity in capability. They're fighting proxy wars, you know, through Hezbollah and Hamas. Their Iranian Republican Guard Corps, or the Quds Force, has overseas capabilities that are operating in our hemisphere. This is serious business, and they're an existential threat to our close and dear democratic ally, Israel. But they are a threat also to America and the free world. And we're the leader of the free world. So we need to stop looking at it like, well, whatever Israel needs to do, we'll see if we need to cheerlead or whatever. This is serious business, and America needs to use all instruments of its national power in order to prevent, not contain, a nuclear state sponsor of terror. There is no good outcome to that from the free world, and as a leader of the free world, we need to take the lead.
Now, let me take the devil's advocate here, meaning Democrat. Listen, hey, we're tired of war. You know, Israel has enough nuclear weapons. It can take care of itself. It's okay, you know, and we'll send money. You know, we're okay with them. Why is it wrong not to draw a line in the sand as Israel is requesting?
Well, first of all, I'm not advocating war, nor am I a saber rattler. There's nobody like those of us in the military that knows the cost and the price of war, both in blood and treasure and on our people and their families. I mean, we should not take that lightly. But a real deterrent is one that has to be a credible threat in order to change behavior. So we have to have economic, diplomatic, intelligence, cyber, and a credible military deterrent in order to change their behavior. If they don't think we're serious with visible military planning, then they're not going to change their behavior. And the reality is, if Israel goes and strikes and we're standing by and Iran reacts, they could close the Straits of Hormuz. They could attack our military bases in Afghanistan, which we don't have sophisticated air defenses covering them because there's no threat right now. They could have sleeper cells operating in our hemisphere that right now are popping up, coming across the border, or they're already in America. So this is the threat to the free world. It's not between Israel and Iran.
Exactly. Now, the signal, forgive me, I had a conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Sean Siebert, who's running out of Houston, a couple of weeks ago, who mentioned that that was a terrorist action. And both of us, we were in both agreement on that particular matter that happened in Libya. Over the weekend, the U.S. pulled out all of its major equipment, assault vehicles, from Afghanistan. It's the symbol that we're sending, or the signal that we're sending to Afghanistan and to Pakistan and to other nations in that hemisphere, is that we are throwing up our hands and saying, you all handle it to the best of your ability. Has the Obama administration's foreign policy failed is basically the justification of my question.
Well, we have got to go back to the core of protecting America's vital national interests in the region, okay? And we have several of them. The first is protecting American citizens, American embassies, and consulates abroad. I mean, that is a vital national interest. The second is keeping the free flow of resources. The third is to protect our close ally, Israel. And the fourth is to be able to defend and fight this global war on terrorism that is still going on. There are elements out there of al-Qaeda and its affiliates that are trying to kill us. And they're in the Middle East. They're in Africa. And we're seeing them emerge in different places where we have new governments that are very weak. And so they're able to get a foothold in there. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Islamic Maghreb is the one that is in North Africa that I spent my last assignment at Africa Command, fighting against, and making sure we're postured against. So this is serious business, and we've got to make sure that we're protecting our vital national interests. We don't need to police the world. We just need to protect America's vital national interests. And we're not doing that very well, and we need some leadership and moral courage there to make sure that we're defending America, which is the primary responsibility of the federal government.
Now, quick question regarding the national defense and protecting it. The Keystone pipeline would have secured a great deal of energy so that we would not be tossing billions of dollars overseas to the Muslim Brotherhood. And they're state-sponsored agencies. I ask you, what is your plan for energy independence for America, and what will it take to implement it in the United States?
Well, first we need an energy strategy, which I learned in the military. If you don't have a strategy, then you don't know what your plan is, and you don't know how to execute it. So
exactly.
we actually need a real, comprehensive, all of the above, really an all of the above strategy that gets us on the path to energy independence, that uses all our resources, which includes the fossil fuel that we have here in American soil. We've been blessed with oil and gas resources. We've got a boom going on right now. We got to renew our nuclear energy. We got to make sure we still have, coal capabilities and not shutting them down like the current administration is right now. And building the Keystone Pipeline is obviously a part of that. You know, I got I'm part of Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I got a VFW newsletter recently that said Canada is looking to hire vets to work on the portion of the pipeline that's up there that right now is not coming to America. They're starting to, look west to bring the assets to China. So here we are. We have a high rate of unemployment amongst our veterans. We're not building the Keystone Pipeline here to get us on the road to energy independence and the 22,000 jobs that comes with that. And now we've got Canada trying to hire our vets up north. I mean, that's dysfunctional all the way around. So we got to have a real strategy with an all the above. We got to use the assets that we have here to get access to them, be good stewards of those resources, but we got to drill, we got to use them. And then we also got to realize that it is a global market, so we still need to secure places like the Straits of Hormuz because the market needs to flow, because any disruption is going to be impacting us globally. So these are complex issues, and we need somebody there who can understand them and fight for them.
I think that was well said in terms of the Straits of Hormuz, because a lot of people have the idea that once we become energy independent, well, screw the rest of the world. You're on your own. But there has to be a protector of free markets and free trade.
Yeah, it's a global market, and obviously the entire world is dependent on that energy and will be for a long time. And so we got to keep it flowing, even if we personally, as a country, are energy independent. We got to make sure it keeps flowing. I mean, I was teaching this stuff at the Marshall Center as a professor to my students, from all over the world, governments from all over the world, to make sure they understood energy security.
Now, in 1971, we started the Energy Department. I don't know why. But I ask you, should we depend on bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. to come up with the ideal for energy independence? It's been 40 years. And no strategy, no plan, no execution. Or should we depend on the free market, free enterprise, the corporate leaders in terms of oil and gas to determine the marketplace?
Yeah, I certainly think that the nation's leadership needs to set the strategy, and then we got to let the free market flourish. I mean, we've got innovation and entrepreneurship that needs to happen, which makes our country great in order to continue to develop new technologies and move us forward. So, that's certainly the way to execute it. You don't need, federal bureaucrats that are, that are overpaid and just creating, boundaries that are actually in the middle of the execution of that.
Okay. Now, I ask you this question. This is my last of my peppering questions. I definitely attempt to invite you back on so I can pepper you once again. Would you vote for an increase in taxes or enhanced revenue in order to hold off the amount of debt that we have outstanding in this particular country right now? We're hearing from one side that enhanced revenue is the only way that we'll be able to conquer our national debt. What say you?
Yeah, we're in an economic struggle that we haven't seen since the Great Depression, and now is not the time to be increasing taxes if we're trying to put people back to work and get ourselves out of this. We need to be focusing on fiscal discipline, stop spending beyond our means, and we should be focusing on pro-growth initiatives that set the stage and set the certainty back in the economic landscape so that small businesses, which are the engine of growth, can put people back to work. We can start growing again. So the focus does need to be fiscal discipline and pro-growth policies. I mean, if you've got a teenager who's got a spending problem, you don't right away just increase their allowance. You know what I mean? No, that's not how you solve it. So we got to knuckle down. We got to knuckle down. We got to quit kicking the can, and we got to solve these problems together. We do need to reform the tax code. It's too complex. It's too burdensome, and so we got to get it so it's not so onerous, and that the taxes are low enough so that people are inspired to spend again and get our growth going again. So that'll be the focus. But I'm very much like, hey, we got to solve a problem and stop kicking the can.
Who's more important, the 47% or the 53?
Hey, you know what? It's 100% of Americans. We got to team up because our future is at stake.
There you go. Well said. Listen, Ms. McSally, how do people get in contact with you? What kind of support mechanisms do you need? What's it going to take to make certain that the liberals have to report that you're 5% ahead?
Well, we're excited, and the momentum is ours. You can check me out on my website, which is marthamcsally.com, spelled M-C-S as in Sierra, A-L-L-Y. You can click on there, sign up for our email distro. You can make an investment. It's not a donation. It's an investment in your future, and we'd be very grateful if you'll team up for that. You may not be in my district, and you can't vote for me, but I can certainly vote for you. So I'd be grateful for that. We're also on Facebook. You can friend me on Facebook, my personal page, and McSally for Congress official page. And we would just love for people to get behind us and be following this thing. And I'm sure we'll get a path to victory here. But we got to compete with the machine on the other side and make sure that we can get my message out continuously until November 6th. Early voting starts October 11th in Arizona, and over 50% vote early. So it's game on right now.
Exactly. Now, a lot of individuals who listen to my show happen to be overseas and military personnel. Do you have a message for overseas citizens and military personnel?
God bless you, and thank you for your service. There is nothing like what you are doing, raising your right hand, taking an oath, putting on the uniform, and putting your life on the line. The American people are grateful for that, and God bless you and keep you safe and protect you, and you'll be home soon. And I promise you, I'm going to keep fighting to make sure we're the best military in the world and our veterans are taken care of. And make sure you vote, because this matters.
Exactly. Listen, get your FPCAs in, get your FWABs in, do it. Now we even have, you can do it electronically. You can go to FVAP.gov, just type it in, and you can just write in Martha McSally. Just go ahead, just whatever it takes. Get it done, get it in the mail so that it can be counted, because you have an administration that's working about 25 hours a day, 8 days a week to make sure that your vote doesn't count. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with Martha McSally. God bless you. I hope we can have you back on before the elections. If we don't, you got my endorsement. I'm looking forward to you coming to Washington, D.C. to visit with me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the dialogue, and we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you real soon. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing better than making certain that you have the most conservative people in Washington, D.C. Make an investment, going over to her site. You can do it at the site that you're on right now here at Blog Talk Radio. You can click onto that. It'll open up a window. McSally, I believe it's .com. Vote for or whatever. You can just click right there. In fact, let me just go ahead and take a look at my particular window. Exceptional guests. Scroll down. Got guests for this particular week. Oh, there it is. Martha McSally. Yes, McSallyForCongress.com. The first woman to command a United States Air Force fighter squadron. Arizona's 2nd Congressional District candidate for the U.S. House. Listen, click on there. Donate. Support. Make certain that all of Arizona goes red, okay? Arizona, I'm not through with you all.